Well, interesting situation today for Mark Scaife. One of the factors is that we've seen him at the top 15 shootout. He'll be starting from 15th position on the grid. For Mark Scaife, the interesting factor is he won 5 rounds on the trot this year in a row, 7 out of 12 so far this season, which equals himself, Moffat and Richards. If he can win this round this weekend, he will go 8 and win a new all-time record.
Just what will be the priority for the Holden Racing team, securing a 1-2 finish at the end of this season, or will it be Mark Scaife achieving that 8-win record? It's an interesting quandary that probably won't come into play until tomorrow, but it's something to think about as we also think about 5 different winners here in the last 5 years in this championship, Matthew. So Sandown does throw up some varied results as we check out the grid.
Yeah, I like that question, Billy. Will there be team orders coming into play? Well, we're probably going to have to wait until tomorrow to find that out. But right now, Marcus Ambrose and Craig Lowndes will lead us off for 150 Ks. David Bernard and Greg Murphy, positions 3 and 4. Stephen Richards starts from position number 5. Ellery is next to him from 6. Cameron McConville there. Great to see some of the other guys up in the top 10. Max Wilson in 10th position. Then it's Jason Richards and John Bowe. And we've got to go down to position number 15 to find Mark Scaife.
Rick Kelly doing well. It was 12 months ago he made his solo debut here, and hasn't he come on gangbusters since that time? Perkins and Jones, Larkham, Radicic struggling again right down there in 24th position. Seaton also in the wars, and Faulkner having his last V8 supercar race.
Yeah, farewell to a couple of guys this weekend. John Faulkner is one of them. Of course, Larry Perkins is the other. There's Simon Wills in car 14. Paul Stokell, by the way, takes over the drive from Anthony Tratt in car number 75, who's a bit crook this weekend, Tratty, so we wish him well. And Paul Stokell has the job in the Better Electrical V8 Ultimate. Grant Denyer.
Yeah, well, the call has gone out to Mark Scaife to be careful in these first few corners. It is predicted, as usual, that there might be some biff and barge, but one man who will have a safe start will be Dean Canto, because he's starting from pit lane. He came in because he's had some problems with some smoke filling the cockpit. It's only really due to the overfilling of some fluid, so at least he's got a safe start, but it doesn't really problem him because he starts from 30th anyway. So for Dean Canto, not the start he wanted again in a Cat Falcon.
Yeah, you're right there. It's good to see Dean Canto out in another full round of the championship, coming off Pukekohe with a 5th placing there, so it's good to see him 5th placing in the final race. Good to see young Dean Canto getting another full-time drive. Here are our in-car cameras for you this weekend. And they also show from inside the cockpit the kind of conditions that these guys are facing. Greg Murphy, of course, with the Kmart Racing team. There's been some heavy clouds building around, and in fact, some rain falling around about 15 minutes ago. Just light rain, sort of breezed across the horse racing track, if you like, and came over the hill and decided to threaten us. It's cold, could get a little bit miserable, and it will get interesting as well. Craig Lowndes, what a lap he put down in that 1-lap dash. Went from side to side and curb to curb, really threw everything at it, and then ended up still with a smile on his face as this man, Marcus Ambrose, was clean and consistent. Here we go, we're ready to get underway. 150 Ks in front of us and a long straight to get moving. It looked pretty even. Look at John Bowe go up the outside. They're all messing around as they jiggle around for positions. Marcus Ambrose has some pressure being put on him from Greg Murphy. That's to the left of your screen. Let's see who gets through turn 1 cleanly. Ambrose goes through, then Murphy. And David Bernard got through as well. A little bit of a mix-up at the back. Cameron McLean's involved in that. Is that Mark Scaife? And Bradley Jones also goes off.
Looks like there's some damage there to Todd Kelly's Holden Young Lions Commodore 2. Smoke belching from the front of the 02 car. There it is in the middle of the pack, so there's plenty of fisticuffs going on through turn 1. Everyone holds their breath as that big field comes through the first time. A relatively clean start, but you can see some battle damage on some of these cars further back in the pack.
That's big damage too on 02. Look at Murphy. Down the back straight, takes on Bernard and gets him. 260 Ks plus. Gee, that was a big move on David Bernard, but good moving from Marcus Ambrose, who got some clean road ahead of him. Mark Scaife trapped in the middle of all that mess as one of the 00 Motorsport Ford Falcons goes around him.
Well, what happened to Craig Lowndes? He started off the front row of the grid and he's just disappeared. I'm not sure what happened there. Where is he? Where's the 00 Motorsport Falcon?
There he is, just came around right in front of Scaife there, so he wasn't caught up in that tangle that we saw at lap 1, turn 1, because that happened a little bit back, further back. But gee, They put the power down straight ahead of him. Ambrose leads him across. Murphy's there. Bernard, Richards and Todd Kelly make up your top 5. Here's Stephen Ellery.
Oh, getting very tight there between John
Max
Bow.
Wilson has just completely taken out one of the Castrol cars. I think it's Russell Ingall.
Oh, you can see that coming. There was a collision there between the Aussie male Ford and the better electrical car. Russell Ingall was the victim. Just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And he got served up right off to the edge of the circuit. We don't know how bad the damage is from that collision. But you can see Ingall's gone right to the back of the pack.
I'd love to see that again because Max Wilson was doing all sorts of dancing around here. Now just watch behind Stephen Ellery's car. John Bow's also involved in this. Bow's hovering around the back of Ingall. Now Wilson gets back on the track. Slam! Takes out car number 8.
Well, John Bow went one way, saw Wilson was there, went back the other. Wilson dropped the wheel off the side of the track. So there were 3 or 4 cars involved in that. And unfortunately, Ingall came off the worst of the bunch. So the first lap, 1:11.86, first flying lap for Marcus Ambrose. Lap record of 1:11.65, set by Craig Lowndes back in 1999. So Ambrose already knocking on the door of those times. Keep in mind the track has been modified since those days. About 12 metres cut out of its total length as a result of a realignment around near the back straight section of the course. Let's have a look at the replay.
Well, this will give us an idea of what happened to Craig Lowndes. Look at that. They just all went around him.
Got swamped. Look at this. He's just getting overtaken left, right and centre. He dumped a massive amount of positions off the start line.
Well, he went, just by my count there, he went from 2nd to at least 11th as they got to turn 1.
Almost like he went off in the wrong gear. The car just did not get going at all, and he paid the price. He's gone right back into the field. That won't hurt him too badly, though. We still have a pit stop to come, a compulsory tyre change, which is open now, the window from lap 2 to lap 35 in this 40-lap race event.
That will also throw up another interesting equation here because you might have seen the cars come around on the exit of turn 9 there. They get really wide on the right-hand side of the circuit as Cameron McConville comes in, and that is right where the entry to pit lane is. So these guys, oh, a little bit of a fire in the brakes there. These guys will have a bit of a logjam coming into the entry to pit lane.
Well, here comes Mark Scaife. He's decided to get out of that queue early. It's the trouble when you're back in the middle of the pack. You really can't move forward. So it's a good idea. You see the fast guys, if they do have a bad session like this, they'll come in and pit as early as possible and try and get their man to run on a clean bit of road. I think he got the message. It's time to go. So Scaife rejoins the race, and Cameron McConville almost door-to-door with car 1. So a number of cars choosing to come in as early as possible. Ambrose still leading for Murphy. 1:11.85, fastest lap of the race so far for Marcus Ambrose.
Well, guys, I can tell you that they have been on the radio to Mark Scaife and to both Rick Kelly to determine what to do. They elected to bring Mark in. That was a part of their plan or their strategy. They wanted to get Mark Scaife in nice and early. Rick's car, the damage to it obviously isn't too bad, but having said that, he's coming into pit lane now. We'll get a closer look at it this time around.
It's going to be interesting to see if Cameron McConville can stick to the back of car 1, because Scaife will have his head down. He'll be trying to make up as much track position as he can while he's got a clear bit of road in front of him. McConville goes with him. He's going to be well positioned by the time the overlap happens, because these two cars have both made their compulsory tyre change.
Craig Baird in for Team Brock, car number 54. That was an extraordinary situation when these two guys, McConville and Scaife, came out of pit lane side by side. Haven't seen that the 12 rounds that we've had so far this season. And here's Rick Kelly coming in. McConville, his best finish of the season, a 6th at Phillip Island. But today and this weekend, car number 3 has got some pace on board. Rusty?
Long stop for Rick Kelly, 27 seconds for the Holden Young Lions Commodore. The main thing they were worried about was whether that guard would be eating into the rubber. It has damaged the front right very slightly. The guys have pulled out the guard to ensure that doesn't keep happening.
So sorting out the battle damage there. As a result of those hectic opening laps, Cameron McConville tries to save with Scaife, but Scaife starting to open it a bit. You can see the raindrops on the lens of our cameras. Strong wind blowing across Sandown International as well. Temperatures quite low. We're looking at the back of car 1. as Mark Scaife now tries to make up as much ground as he can after starting from midfield as a result of that crash in the top 15 shootout. So McConville doing a good job here, staying with the reigning champion. And there's the positions. 1.7 seconds the gap now between Ambrose and Murphy. Richards up there too. Kelly, Bernard and Bow all choosing to stay out.
See the damage to the front of car 65, the front left of Max Wilson as a result of that big bingle with Russell Ingall. Stephen Ellery caught in that traffic. There's Stephen Richards and Jason Richards.
The problem with Craig Lowndes off that start, you saw how far back he slipped. The team have made an assessment. They believe it's a slipping clutch. It doesn't seem to be affecting him at the moment, but making the problem worse is they have no communications with Craig. They can't really hear him. So hopefully he can hear them when they make the call for him to pit, because he hasn't done that just yet. So plenty of problems at 00.
Here's our race leader, Marcus Ambrose, coming in for his compulsory tyre change. The Shell Helix pit stop clock will tell the story. They've got to turn him around nice and quickly to keep him in contention for this event. A good stop, under 8 seconds by the Stone Brothers team. So Ambrose will be happy with that. He's had a nice clear track in front of him. He's made very good lap times up until he came in for his stop. So let's see where he rejoins relative to the cars of Mark Scaife and Cameron McConville. I think Greg Murphy came in as well.
Yeah, well, just saw Scaife and McConville as Ambrose hit turn 1. Those guys were just coming around.
So great stop. Here they are. Yep, so Ambrose has been very, very well serviced there in pit lane, and he's done a great job in those opening laps. He's maintained the lead after his compulsory stop, a handy lead on these cars. And when we say a lead, of course, he's not leading the race, but it'll be interesting to see how they, or what the positions they're in when these compulsory stops are out of the way. There's Murphy, the Kmart Commodore. It's Todd Kelly, I think, who came in to make that compulsory stop. So there's Murphy in the second of the Kmart cars. So a lot of these teams choosing to get these compulsory stops out of the way early. There's Marcus Ambrose. So the race leader at the moment, David Bernard, Max Wilson in second. Lowndes in third with that slipping clutch, according to the team. Could have been the cause of that terrible start. Bargwanna in fourth, Tander in fifth. And there is Murphy rejoining just behind Marcus Ambrose. And in front of his teammate, Todd Kelly.
Stephen Richards slots in between them, so it could be that Marcus Ambrose with that slick 7.9 second stop.
Oh, how close is it here between...
Yeah, nuts. That was always going to happen. You can see that was always going to happen. Todd Kelly goes hopping right across the grass, but still holds on to his race position. Stephen Richards was so close, nosing him along.
Just hassling all the way up there.
Hassle is the word as Todd Kelly goes screaming down the back straight. The defending champion at Sandown.
Yeah, I saw it.
They've made a point of being strong in the second half of the season. This is exactly what happened. So the front left of Richards tangles with the rear right of Kelly. And he did a good job to hold on to it. Also threw up a whole heap of garbage on the track as well as a result of that tangle. Stephen Richards in car 16. Farewelling his team boss this weekend, and more than likely will have Paul Dumbrell with him for next season. It's yet to be officially confirmed, but Larry Perkins said that he's definitely the firm favourite, young Paul Dumbrell. So out on the road, Max Wilson is currently in second position behind David Bernard, and here's Lowndes putting some awesome pressure on him through the S's of turn 6. Underneath the bridge, this is the part of the circuit that they've changed, as Mark said, taken around 12 metres off it. Turn 8 brings us around to finish. Lap 9 of 48. 1:11.787 is the fastest time out there, set by Jason Bright.
Battle for the lead. Max Wilson, Craig Lowndes, Jason Bargwanna. Here comes David Bernard in for his compulsory tyre change. We do apologise. At the moment, there's a problem with the circuit's timing system, which is not showing us which cars have and which cars haven't made their compulsory tyre changes. working on that problem at the moment. And here comes the Holden Racing Team car. Max Wilson gets right out of shape, coming through turn 4. One of the Valvoline Cummins Commodores decides to pounce three wide and then some.
And that's the fastest part of the circuit as well. Something's got to give here at the end of this straight. Who will it be?
They're going for 4 wide. Look how close they are here. Lowndes down the inside, goes very deep under brakes and gets in front of that group. Wow. Battle for the race lead is on between the 2 Falcons and the 2 Valvoline Cummins Commodores, Jason Bargwanna and Garth Tander. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I cannot believe that they put that move on coming down the end of that straight. That's 268 they've been pushing at that point of the circuit, just underneath the bridge down the back straight, and that could have ended in a whole world of pain, but Craig Lowndes slotted in front of Max Wilson. Bargwanna is there. This is how it all started. Take you back to turn 4. As Wilson got a little bit sideways, look at the 2 Valvoline cars waiting to pounce.
Collision there between the 2 cars. That's what got Max Wilson so sideways. Lowndes tried to capitalise, but he didn't see the 2 Valvoline Cummins Commodores coming through. Now look at this, up the back straight. Biff, bam. This is like Days of Thunder. Max Wilson gets the sandwich. The short back and sides, Holden on one side, Lowndes on the inside, almost 4 wide up the back straight.
Well, watch Lowndes play it cool. Look at him. He just slotted behind Max Wilson, and then made his move right at the end.
And Craig Lowndes is not lacking in testosterone, let me tell you. Unbelievable. You saw the speed that he got out of that car in the top 15 shootout. No shortage of courage in that situation too. He left his braking really late.
The bottom line is Craig Lowndes is leading Max Wilson and Jason Bargwanna, but that is the situation on track. Not all the cars have made their pit stops. Marcus Ambrose has, and of that group, he is the leader ahead of Murphy. And Cameron McConville, gentlemen, is having a pretty good drive as well. That car is quick this weekend.
Yeah, it's quick in a straight line too, Billy. Look at him when he gets on the back straight. Really has got some horsepower. It's obviously putting it down pretty well too. By the time all these compulsory stops shake out, McConville should be about 6th or 7th in the order. That's a great fight back by the Sydney-based team. Here's Lowndes in for his compulsory tyre change. And look, you see the damage on the side of the car from that coming together on the back straight. So Lowndes gets back into the battle. Be interesting to see where he emerges now relative to the other cars on the circuit.
Marcus Ambrose will be our race leader once the pit stops sort themselves out. Max Wilson has just pulled in behind Lowndes, so he's in the pits now. We understand there could be some oil out there on the track. Not surprising, given the fact that they've all nailed each other. Here's Mark Scaife goes through.
Just behind Scaife, so that should put him about 7th by the time all the pit stops have been made.
Quite remarkable that Craig Lowndes managed to come in right there on that lap 12. That's what the team agreed to prior to the race, but the problem was Craig wasn't getting any calls. All the radios in each of those 00 Motorsport cars are not working, so really it was up to Craig's memory, even in the heat of that competition, to remember that lap 12 is the lap to go.
He's pretty good at keeping it cool, isn't it?
Yeah. Let's have a look at this Nintendo replay. Looks like there's smoke pouring from the VIP Pet Foods Falcon. We hear from the pits that he may have blown an engine, which is a great disappointment for the Queensland-based team because they had a good run in the top 15 shootout.
Yeah, they're going to have to watch it going through turns 2 and 3 because you understand that's a whole heap of oil come out of the VIP Pet Foods car.
Well, look underneath there, you can see it's hemorrhaging pretty badly. There's oil, some fluid dripping onto the concrete underneath the car. It was a fairly major blow-up too. Ray Robbins, Vesco there just checking. And Marcus Ambrose, fastest lap of the race so far, a 1:11.66. Keep in mind, he's only 1/100th of a second off the lap record set by Craig Lowndes back in 1999, long before control tyres.
This is Matthew White in car number 24. The other VIP car has been the Ultra Tune entry, and he's found the dirt. Had a couple of drives this season and also competed in both the Enduros, the Queensland 500 and Bathurst. Meanwhile, Marcus Ambrose has a lot of clear road ahead of him and is posting some really good times, as Mark mentioned. 1:11.66.5 and 1:11.65 is the lap record set by Lowndes in 1999.
I mean, the track is 12 metres shorter than it was in those days, but in those days too, it's the early days of control tyres. Holden Racing Team on top of their game. So good effort from Marcus Ambrose. 1:11.66 fastest race lap so far. Here's Greg Murphy. He's currently running 4th, but by the time John Faulkner, who's the race leader now, makes his compulsory stop, and of course Paul Stokell and the Toll Express Ford, the order should be Marcus Ambrose, Greg Murphy in 2nd, Bernard in 3rd, Kelly in 4th, Stephen Richards in 5th, and Scaife in 6th. Here's Bernard after his stop. Good slick stop by the Stone Brothers crew. That's kept him in 5th. By the time the 2 compulsory stops are made by Faulkner and Stokell. So you can see the raindrops on the screen there, and here is John Faulkner, who is our race leader, and Marcus Ambrose is knocking on the door of lapping the Dynapack Commodore. John Faulkner's last race in V8 Supercar, retiring on the same weekend as Larry Perkins.
108 championship starts for John Faulkner, and he's probably going to leave this series with a record that he doesn't really want, of course. Go into the books as the driver to have had the most starts in the championship without ever winning one. 108 championships. He did have a good performance at Eastern Creek this year. His highest ever race finish, a 3rd. And the Dynapack car really had some speed on board. Now Marcus Ambrose is just waiting to go past him.
Well, this Pertec Falcon has been flying all weekend from the moment they dropped it onto the bitumen Friday afternoon. It has just been absolutely flying, blistering speed in the qualifying session as well, plus the top 15 shootout. He really has been a man and a pit crew on top of the job all weekend so far. So now he puts John Faulkner down a lap, takes over. Here's Jason Bright. Now, is he getting out of the car? He is too. Wow. There's been some upsets toward the end of this season, but how many dramas have we seen at Holden Racing Team in these last couple of rounds?
Can you believe that the man who is fighting to get the Holden Racing Team its first ever 1-2 finish is now out of this race? So rare that they've had any problems.
Looks like another engine failure, judging by that smoke pouring from the exhaust outlets there.
Yeah, I was going to say, so rare that they've had any problems until the last few rounds of the season. Go back to the Queensland 500 when they had to pull out. And of course, Pukekohe and Gold Coast for different drivers, but both out of the same team. HRT has had its engine dramas. It's Russell Ingles having a few dramas, or is that Larry? That's Larry getting back on track.
Well, Jeff, Greg, Jason Bright was out of the car pretty quickly. He's bolted out the back. Obviously pretty disappointed. What's happened?
Yeah, well, it should be. You know, looks like we've got some problem with the car, engine related, but, you know, it hasn't been a good weekend. It hasn't been a couple of good rounds for us, unfortunately, but there's not much we can do. We'll try and get it solved and get out on the track tomorrow.
Jeff, did he give you any indication of what went wrong? With the symptoms similar to Mark's car in Pukekohe?
No, he didn't really give it. He's probably disappointed. He didn't like to stay on the radio and give us a full debrief, but you know, it is something wrong with the engine. We don't know. Don't know whether it's related to what's been going on lately, so we'll just have to do a post-mortem.
Fingers crossed for car 1 and 0-2.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I'd hazard a guess that Holden Racing Team perhaps is doing a little bit of racetrack development in these final rounds with the championship over. Maybe it's a time to start stretching the envelope a little bit. Now there's Perkins all on his own, under pressure from Junior Johnson, but no contact between the two cars. And Larry, you can see, backed it right over to the fence to turn around. Another Nintendo replay. Problems here for Matthew White once again. There was a ton of oil drop down there for Cameron McLean's engine failure, so maybe Matt getting caught out by a slippery surface. I think there was a maybe a little collision there too, as Scaife tried to sneak up the inside of the Castrol Commodore into turn 4. Mucked up his exit from the corner. He's dropped a few car lengths back, but this has been going on lap after lap, maintaining pretty good lap speed too. Marcus Ambrose, though, the race leader, has increased his lead over Greg Murphy. It's out to 6 seconds now, so a pretty comfortable buffer for the Pertec Ford driver. Greg Murphy in 2nd, Bernard in 3rd. Kelly, this is the battle for 5th between Stephen Richards and Mark Scaife. Lowndes is closing in slowly on the back of these two. Watch him just take a few tenths out. Look at the Nintendo replay. Problems here for the Team Brock Commodore, which spun and took Shell 18 Falcon of Paul Radisich with it. looks like Radicic managed to get out of trouble. So look at this. Here's Craig Lowndes starting to climb into the picture now. Fastest lap times, the 1:11.66, which is the fastest lap of the race still. Bernard not far behind. So everyone running in the mid to high 11s in terms of fastest race laps. But certainly the leading 3 cars are still maintaining 1:11 lap times. Everyone in the 1:12s. They go back to this battle for 5th position. And you can see on the speedo readout there for the Holden Racing Team Commodore almost 270 kilometres an hour before they drop down here. Stephen Richards has been making that Commodore particularly wide, driving a very conservative line and not giving Mark Scaife a sniff of an opportunity to get past. And look at this. This has allowed Craig Lowndes to climb up onto the back, so it's going to be a 3-way fight soon for 5th.
It's been a great test, hasn't it? And Stephen Richards has had this test put on him by a number of drivers throughout the season and showed terrific defensive driving, if you like, aside from that slip up at Bathurst where Scaife went shooting past and ended up claiming the title. Right now he's holding off the series champion, but the green-eyed monster's waiting to go as well. Darryl Beattie.
Ross, I don't like coming to see you in situations like this. I put the mocker on you in New Zealand, but the boy's got a few tenths on him at the moment. Each lap he's pretty quick.
Yeah, actually things are going along pretty good. We're actually working David pretty hard in the Caltest car to try and close up to Murphy. Keep him honest, so so far so good, but it's just over halfway, so we've got a long way to go.
Thanks, mate.
Yep, no problem.
Sure do. This man's leading it, and he's convincingly been the fastest man here all weekend. Marcus Ambrose. Can he record the 2nd round victory for Ford in 2002? Greg Rust.
Well, Mark, I can tell you, shock news down here. The 2nd retirement for the Holden Racing Team. The young Lions Commodore is out as well. Rick Kelly, what's happened?
Well, we got off to a reasonable weekend. I mean, this is a bit of a disappointment. Something wrong with the brakes at this stage. We're not quite sure what. It's a bit of a scary moment, really. I went into turn 1 and lost a pedal. I mean, it's a scary feeling, but I'm sure we'll get on top of it for the next one and see how good we can go in the big one.
Good luck.
Thank you.
So you don't want to be doing that at turn 1, that front straight. This is the turn right here. You don't want to be doing that because you're clocking up to 255 before you have to back it off and take the left-hander that is turn 1. We go on board with Craig Lowndes, who's joined this queue, as Mark said. In front of him is Scaife. Scaife has been putting maximum pressure on Stephen Richards, and
it's amazing when you look at the bulletproof reliability of those Holden Racing Team Commodores throughout the season. Now the championship's over. We're starting to see a few failures emerging in the final rounds. Maybe well seeing some testing going on of components maybe they want to run next year.
Well, the pressure's off, isn't it, Marco? So they can afford to play around, given the season that they've had. They've certainly got enough race and round victories under their belt. Cameron McConville's got major problems here.
Boy, oh boy, every time these guys get themselves into a competitive position and show a bit of speed. Look at this attack now by Mark Scaife. He's got a good run on Richards' car. It's going to be side by side as they come down the straight. Scaife on the inside. Richards comes back on the outside. Hard under brakes.
Okay, mate.
And Richards gets him back. So this is a really intense struggle between these two. And Craig Lowndes the whole time menacing around in the rear view mirror of car 1.
The battle group is 5, 6 and 7 positions that we're looking at. Stephen Richards holding on to position number 5.
Just ignore car 11 there, Larry Perkins. He's down a lap. The battle for 5th is between these 3 cars. Stephen Richards, Mark Scaife and Craig Lowndes. Up the back straight, 270 Ks. Perkins can see this battle in his rear view mirror. Last time, we'll see Larry Perkins competing in the V8 Supercar Championship. What role can he play here as his teammate comes up to try and make a move? Let's have a look at the Nintendo replay. Now that's interesting. Almost like he was waving him through. Wow. I was going to say maybe team tactics, but they're not teammates.
No, certainly not.
Not quite sure what's going on there.
I thought he was about to give him a razz or something, but then he waved him on through, so... interesting
maybe
gameplay.
they were boxing in the Cup 004 forward to make sure he didn't get past. Who knows? Holden teams working together. Grant?
Yeah, well, you can't say Cameron McConville doesn't have any gusto. He's just been in the pit lane to fix this thing. He's completely snapped his gear shift. His lever just came off in his hand just a couple of laps ago. They had to come in and completely replace the whole shaft.
Same as what happened to Jason Bright. Grant.
Well, I've just been talking to some of the, getting information back from the observers. Apparently what happened, there was a collision between Scaife and Richards.
So
and that's how Mark was able to get alongside the car. But as we know, under the driving regulations, drivers are allowed to redress the situation. So Scaife quite sportingly then said, no, I didn't get it fairly, have it back.
See, we're conspiracy theorists, aren't we? We're just trying to pick a conspiracy. But it's simple. Tim Schenken and the boys have quite simply said, if you redress those kind of issues, then the stewards won't bother you, and that's exactly what Mark Scaife was doing. So lap 32 of 48. Marcus Ambrose is our race leader. Greg Murphy is second. David Bernard is third. Todd Kelly is holding down fourth position. And then that group that we've been following, Stephen Richards, Mark Scaife and Craig Lowndes, as we go back further through the field. Car 21, 021 is Jason Richards, so that's position number 14. This group that we're hovering around is 15 and 14.
Crompton in 13th, Ellery in 12th. So it's a big battle group. Crompton in his last drive with the 00 Motorsport Ford team.
Well, we're back at Sandown, and look at this. You don't see it happen too often. In the last round of V8 Supercar racing for the AU Falcon, Craig Lowndes shoves it past Mark Scaife's #1 Holden Commodore. Well, that's something for the Ford fans to savour, and they certainly haven't had much to savour in the AU era, but maybe it'll change next season. And the other interesting factor is this man, Greg Murphy, is being caught very, very rapidly by the fast David Bernard. On lap 26, Bernard posted his fastest lap of the race. He's been catching Murphy hand over fist, and now he is right on his backside as we see another terrific battle unfolding here.
Yeah, some of those last laps there in the last 5 that we've had the timing monitors on, you can see that David Bernard has put half a second and then some on Greg Murphy's time. So it's getting very, very tight between Greg Murphy and David Bernard, which is battling for position number 2 on the track. And Stone Brothers Racing are doing everything they can to get a 1-2 finish in this race. Kmart, of course, had a 1-2 round finish in Pukekohe. SBR are trying to do that here with the Fords in this 150-kilometre event as we take a look out the back at Paul Morris's car, and there's David Bernard getting caught up in that traffic. And look at Greg Murphy pull away.
Yeah, Murph's got a real battle on his hands. Just spoke with the team, and he's really having some problems with chewing up the rear tyres. It's starting to really overheat them. Of course, getting the power down out of these tight turns does a lot of damage to them. But they said they didn't quite hit the mark when it come to getting a setup right for this race. A lot of improvements needed tomorrow for Murph.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think of Sandown as being a particularly tyre-sensitive circuit. The 2 big straights, but the thing is, those straights are linked by quite slow corners. I mean, he could power down and puts a lot of emphasis on good low-speed traction. And if you haven't got the setup in the rear of the car right, you can actually burn the tyres up. Maybe that's what Murphy's struggling with there, because Bernard has caught him hand over fist. The gap is out to 1.7 seconds, but that was as a result of Bernard getting tangled up trying to get past Paul Morris. Meanwhile, here's the battle that's been going on and on and on. It was Scaife trying to get past the Castrol Commodore. Now he's dropped back and Lowndes is having a go. It's still the battle for 5th, and Richards proving a very, very tough customer to get past. Up the back straight, hear those V8s roaring. 265, 270 Ks. They come down to the S's, down Dandenong Road once again. And Richards, driving a conservative line here. Is this an opportunity for Lowndes? You can just see the car got a little bit untidy as he went through the turn. Lowndes tried to capitalise, but Richards recovered.
Mark, I've just had a word to TWR General Manager Jeff Grech. Now that gap between Craig Lowndes to Mark Scaife is 1.5 seconds now. Good effort by Craig Lowndes here on Stephen Richards down the front straight, but that gap has been progressively getting worse between Lowndes and Scaife. I've asked Grech, is there anything wrong with that car? Given the dramas with Bryant's car, are they going to have to conserve it? The official line is it's okay at this stage.
Side by side, they went down that front straight there, Rusty, and Stephen Richards is hanging on by the barest of threads to this position. as Craig Lowndes comes bearing down on the inside, on the outside, has a look around turn 4.
Gee, that Castrol Commodore's good under brakes, isn't it? We saw a number of occasions he's been able to go deeper without locking a wheel. And down at that turn 1, it's a little bit bumpy. It's a very high-speed approach. The car obviously pretty well balanced because no one's been able to match Richards there under brakes. Even Craig Lowndes, and we know how courageous he is when it comes to hitting that middle pedal. Down they go. The bottom of the S's once again, back toward the main straight. Stephen Richards sitting in 5th. Ambrose, Murphy, Bernard, Kelly in front of him. As you can see, there's not too many opportunities to pass here. One of the areas the drivers seem to love is that slow turn as they come out onto here, the front straight. If the car in front gets it slightly wrong and you get it slightly right, it can make a big difference when you get down the end of the straight.
This is 5th in the championship versus 7th in the championship, and of course Mark Skaife already has the title, so plenty of points to play with. The bottom end of the top 5 this championship ladder, and Stephen Richards is doing a remarkable job to hold on. We go back further through the field. Stephen Ellery, Stephen Johnson and Neil Crompton. That's positions 11, 12 and 13.
It's going to be interesting next year when we see the new Project Blueprint vehicles, the new BA Falcon and the VY Commodore. I think people may be unaware that even though they're running these new models next year, teams will still be able to run AU Falcons and VX Commodores in this year's specification. So it's going to be a bit of a hybrid year. You're going to have quite a few different vehicles out there. And the performance of the new cars up against the older models is going to be a fascinating contest.
You can't go back and forth, can you? If you start with an AU and then switch over to a BA,
you cannot go back.
Go backwards.
No, it's been brought in as a cost measure of the team stepping up. Maybe they won't be ready financially or in an engineering sense to make the step up. So it's going to be like a transition phase next year. It should be interesting to see how the AU goes up against the BA.
Well, next year will be a watershed year in many respects, because you can be rest assured that after this round, all those driver changes that we've been talking about, the rumours continue to build, will start to unfold, and I think we're going to see quite a few guys switch from Holden to Ford and Ford to Holden. It'll be a different ball game completely.
The biggest change is the one, or the biggest challenge is the one that faces the Holden teams more than the Ford teams. If you think the Holdens are adopting the front suspension of the Falcon and they're going to a new design of engine, they're having the biggest engineering changes of the two brands. So I reckon you find some of these top teams hedging their bets and perhaps starting the season with one VX and one VY, and then try and bring the new car on as the season progresses. Old model's not going too badly here though. Craig Lowndes thought he actually got a pass on Stephen Richards, with Richards brilliant under brakes at the end of the straight, and those positions remaining the same.
Back we go to Jason Bargwanna, whose future is yet to be decided at Gary Rogers Motorsport. That's 8th position on the track.
It's like Formula One these days, isn't it? V8 Supercar. They used to talk about silly season on musical chairs. Boy, the number of driver swaps we're getting in this category now, it's an end of season entertainment.
I think we'll hear more about Barks' drive for next year in the next week or so. There's Garth Tander. So the two Valvoline Cummins Commodores are in positions 8 and 9.
Less than 4 laps to go, and this is the costly manoeuvre that put Craig Lowndes in a spin into the back of Stephen Richards. He lost track position to Richards and Mark Skaife and tried to regather it. He overdoes it. Another spin. And that left him back in 7th position. The in-car tells us how it happened. Lowndes almost collected the tyres there as he just touched the back of Richo's car. Well, it was a little more than a touch, really. And then he overcooked it when he tried to spin himself back into the race. That was the battle for 5th, 6th and 7th. Now Mark Skaife slipped through to 5th after Stephen Richards had a little problem, but this is Lowndes' spin again from Skaife's point of view. You saw Richo running off there after he got the tap, and that of course allowed Skaife to pick up 2 positions on the track. This man has had a very, very good race though. From pole position, he's been extremely quick and consistently so. Still in the 111s in the late stages of this race at a 7.5-second lead.
2 laps to go, Marcus. 2 laps plus 7.5 to Murphy.
from day one too, Billy, that we got here at Sandown. Marcos Ambrose has been the fastest. It's what we've been speaking about throughout RPM the other day and throughout the championship. You can't turn up in this kind of pressure cooker atmosphere with a car where you've got to chase the tail. Marcos Ambrose hasn't had to do that. He's found speed straight out of the transporter. And look at the determination on Greg Murphy's face as he holds on to second position from Marcus's teammate, David Bernard. Now, if positions stay the same, at the end of the day, Marcos will go up one position overall on the championship and end up in 5th. And in fact, he's defending a bit of forward honour here because no manufacturer has ever had the top 5 positions in the championship at the end of the season, and that's what Holden could do if Marcos doesn't bust into the top 5. So in terms of the championship, it will be a very important race win for Marcos Ambrose. Rusty?
For car 35, Matty. Jason Bargwanna was inside the top 10, as you know. He's now dropping back down the order. The word from Gary Rogers, team boss, is they have a throttle sensor problem in that car. Every time he goes to nail it, the car sounds like it's cutting out.
Good fight back from Greg Murphy. When you think how quickly David Bernard pounced on the back of the Kmart Commodore, you think it was almost a formality he was going to get past, but Murphy has responded magnificently. His lap times are very good. He's just done a 12.2. Bernard did a 12.3. He's well in contention. Ambrose at 12.4, so he's cutting some very competitive lap times. Whatever it was that allowed Bernard to get so close to him, no longer a problem for the Kmart Commodore.
You go back to our last round, Marco, when Marcos Ambrose popped that tyre while in a great position at Pukekohe, and the main beneficiary was Greg Murphy. Well, Ambrose has got one back on Murphy today. He just couldn't believe it. Spoke to him the other day. He said he knew the tyre pressure was going down, but he thought he had enough to hold on. And then bang, he just heard the biggest bang, and he just could not believe it. He was stuck out there hearing a few thousand Kiwis go crazy at his misfortune. But here at Sandown, Marcos Ambrose has proved that he is the quickest man. He's held on to it from the word go. He's got pole position. That's where he started from. He was first in qualifying, quickest in practice, and now in race one. At the end of 150 kilometres, Marcos Ambrose gets his second race victory of the season. Greg Murphy comes across in second, and a good day for Stone Brothers Racing. David Bernard gets a podium finish.
Oh, Marcos Ambrose, talked to him all through the year. He said, I only race for first place. Anything less than that isn't satisfactory. Well, that'll put a smile on his face. That's only the 3rd race win for Ford this year. Ambrose won that heat at Phillip Island under enormous pressure from the Holden Racing team. Bernard, of course, won the Queensland 500. Now that's the 3rd race win for the Blue Oval.
Good strategy, everything worked really well there, so a great effort all around.
He's absolutely right. They did a great job in pit lane too. The Stone Brothers team turned Ambrose around in less than 8 seconds. Craig Lowndes not so lucky, so that collision between himself and Stephen Richards cost him a much stronger result. Still managed to come home 7th though.
And that's midfield that we're just taking a look at. Neil Crompton coming in 12th. Paul Wheel behind him in 13th. Craig Lowndes there ruse what might have been. Greg Murphy gets on the podium yet again, but Marcos Ambrose was the man to beat from the word go, and he's done it here at Sandown. The first of this 2-race weekend. He collects 80 points, double points on offer tomorrow, so he's putting the squeeze on 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th in the championship overall. Stephen Ellery, a top 10 finish. Stephen Johnson in 11th. There's Cromley in 12th in his last drive for the 00 Motorsport Ford Falcon crew. We'll wrap it up all after this at Sandown. The better electrical V8 Ultimate returns after the break.
Marcos Ambrose is back, and perhaps Ford is headed for its 2nd victory of the V8 Supercar Championship. A very, very consistent performance so far this weekend, not only in the qualifying sessions, but the shootout and race 1. 150 Ks down, 300 to go. Let's talk to the top 3 so far.
Dave, you did a pretty good job closing that gap to Murph, but couldn't quite get there, but 3rd's pretty good.
No, I was driving really hard to get up to him, and once I got there, 6 or 7 laps to go, the tyres had gone off. I didn't get helped out by some of the traffic out there, but geez, what do you do? But no, we're happy with that. It's good to get the Caltex Sutherland Falcon up there, and longer race tomorrow. I'm sweating now. See how I go tomorrow.
All the best, mate.
Thanks a lot.
Well, Greg Murphy, not only were you fighting David Bernard, but also for 2nd in the championship and a healthy result on both counts.
Yeah, no, it was great, mate. It was very important, obviously, to get a good start and make sure Brodie stayed behind us, and he obviously had a problem, so that helped us out a lot. And stay close to Marcus, finishing second. We don't lose many points, and it keeps us where we want to be. So it was a strong race, and the car worked well. The guys did a great job, and we'd like a little bit more pace. I'd like to be able to race Marcus tomorrow if I can.
What put you into David's grips? Because you responded pretty strong.
Yeah, he came at me, and I was watching him, and the guys were giving me the time, and got a bit of traffic, and his car looked pretty strong. But and then mine seemed to come back. I was having a bit of a struggle halfway through the race, and I was having to look after the tyres, and then I saw him coming, so I thought, oh, well, we'll give it a bit of a crack, and it held in there. So I was really happy with that.
Good job, Murph.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Well, the emotion down here among the Stone Brothers team at shades of the Queensland 500. Well done, Marcus. A faultless performance.
Yeah, great. It's so much easier when the car's working well, and the car's been perfect ever since we dropped it from the truck yesterday. And yeah, what a credit to the team. You can't win races without great equipment, and they've given me the best car this weekend. Really, all year we've had the best Ford, and we're striving, and we're finally winning races. It's great.
Is it sweeter than given what happened in New Zealand, and how is the car looking for tomorrow?
Oh, it's sweet, mate. Whichever way you look at it, it's still nice. We're over in New Zealand. Let's not talk about that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
He's kept them at arm's length all weekend. He certainly did that in the race. But looking through, there were some big performances. Mark Skaife, remember, starting from 15th on the grid, picked up 10 positions during the race. A couple of those were courtesy of that late problem that Craig Lowndes had. I think we'll talk to him about that in just a moment. 13 positions picked up by Neil Crompton, up to 12th place in the race. And Paul Wheel, even better, picking up 16 positions. Tony Longhurst drove from 27th to 15th. Some good performances too from Dean Canto, up to 17th at the end of the race, and Craig Baird from 31st to 21st. But as I said, the really hard work will come in the 300 Ks tomorrow. Now, for the championship points so far, this is corrected after race 1 at Sandown. Murphy up to second place, and Jason Bright, of course, in a lot of trouble having that failure to finish in that race. Todd Kelly, Marcus Ambrose, Richards, and then Craig Lowndes in 7th positions. I said we'd talk to him, and we will. What happened late in the race, Craig? That was a tough battle back there.
It was a tough battle. Really, we had a bad start, and we managed to do our pit stop, get going, and we were circulating quite well. I was catching Richo and Skaife. Skaife, I don't know whether they had a problem, but fell back, allowed me past, and I was attacking Steve for a number of laps there, but made a little slight error in the Dandenong, tagged the back of him, unfortunately, which you hate to do. He spun, I spun, and allowed Skaife to pick up a couple of spots, so very disappointing.
Now, all that, and you were playing catch-up from the start too.
Yeah, bad start. We got the clutch to slip too bad, or too much, and it was very bad. I fell back to where Skaife was, so I knew he started 15th, so I knew I was in trouble, but we had a lot of work to do. The car's working very well, so we're very happy.